common mistakes teams are doing right now while doing the performance testing? I mean, whether it's execution, whether it's a script creation, right?
So some of the common pitfalls are that it's not similar to functional testing because it
Mhm.
involves scale, right? You are trying to create a load or test your functionality at scale, right? That is the first change people have to think about. Now, some of the things that are valid for functional testing are also valid for performance testing as well. You have to always use random data so
Okay.
that when you use repeatedly the same data, there are things that it may be cached in your service. When you have caches built,
Mhm.
your response times becomes better and better. So you
Right.
have to incorporate or you have to offset the effect of caching, meaning you have to test with both caching and no cache so that you get a real world response time. The one that I mentioned earlier, if your application is running in the cloud, you should be running your load generation from the cloud very next to the application that you're testing. Otherwise, what happens? Additional latency, like the example that I gave earlier. If your application is in US West 1 and you're testing from Bangalore,
Right.
Bangalore to US West 1 latency gets added,
I did.
right? And that shows up as high response time, which is not the actual case,
Correct.
right? So that is one pitfall I have seen, that people don't think about this where they're running their test from. Third thing is people think that performance test can be done at a click of a button, but it's much more than that, because when you're running performance tests, you need to have a very controlled environment because we are dealing with thousands of samples. When you run your performance test, you're hitting the application thousands of times, right? And that the every time you hit, some amount of metrics are collected, so that those metrics have to be analyzed, right? It's thousands of metrics you have to analyze. If you are not controlling the environment, any small change in any variable, say in between your tests somebody changed the branch, up to that point you'll get different set of metrics. After that point you'll get another set of metrics, right? So you'll then be in a dilemma, which one is correct, right?
Correct.
So you need to have a controlled environment where you can perform these tests, and you should put controls where nobody else changes anything during your tests. The tests have to be very, very controlled. Performance testing means you are running things in a controlled environment. So these three common pitfalls I've seen that people don't care of.
I want to add one point, Manal, on this, specifically for the environment, which I have seen. Like for the functional or for the automation, we have environment, right? We used
Hmm.
to do the automation, execute the flows. That is fine. But I have seen sometimes, I mean, performance team is also using the same environment. So because of that performance test, that environment get down. Okay, so it impacts the, I mean, the work of functional as well as automation team. So,
Hmm.
for this performance, do you think separate environment should be
Hmm.
considered while testing? I mean, this can be a, I mean, mistake which, I mean, professionals are doing right now. I have seen this thing because.
It is ideal to have a separate environment,
Mhm.
but separate environment comes with its own cost,
Cost.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
It is a concern among many people,
Right.
many companies, right? So as much as possible, it is good to have a separate dedicated performance environment because of the reason I stated earlier. It needs to be a controlled environment.
Right.
Uh, if that environment is shared between functional QA or QA automation, there
Right.
are chances that they'll overstep your tests, right? And you also break the environment and they'll be blocked for a long time. So as much as possible, a separate environment, dedicated environment for performance testing is preferred. But again, because it adds cost,
Yes.
it is that has to be taken by management or leadership.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, if as an engineer you are asked whether you need a separate environment, your answer should be yes.
Right, right, right. I mean, for that reason, we have to do this performance activity at the, I mean, day and time, because during the daytime performance, I mean, if we do the performance, it will impact the functional as well as the automation engineers. So it was the
Yep.
strategy that team will work. I mean, rest of the team will work on the daytime, and after the day, we should proceed with the performance test. Because of that reason, I mean, the costing reason. So that is very
Yeah,
valid point.
many teams do this. Yeah, they have a time shared environment so that one is not stepping on the toes of others.
Okay.